Both my sister and I got reincarnated from our past lives. My boyfriend pretended to be broke and lame, and my sister decided to take matters into her own hands to embarrass him. Once he bounced back as a wealthy third generation heir, he straight up slapped us in public. I still went ahead and married him, but he used the excuse that I couldn't have kids to bring different women home to chill or more every day. My sister was one of those women. After a few years, I ended up dying from poisoning. After being reincarnated, when my parents suggested I dump him, my sister stepped up heroically. I wasn't bothered by his poverty. If my sister wasn't down with him, then I was. I was ready to support him forever. People make different choices when they get a second shot at life. She took over the role of the rich heir who used to act poor. As for me, I was on a mission to find the only older guy who ever showed me some real warmth. Mia, are you even hearing me? It's not that mom and dad looked down on him, but he was already struggling, and now he's got paralysis from a car crash. How are you planning to live? I slowly came back to reality. Mom and dad, didn't I die? No, they passed away long ago too, when I saw my sister and her husband getting all tangled up. Mom had a stroke from the shock, and dad tried to find answers but tripped down the stairs. Even though they were saved in time by some kind souls, their spirits were broken, and they didn't make it. I just stared blankly at my parents before me. My sister rushed over, knelt in front of our parents, and said, "Brother-in-law is a good guy and looks good, so what if he's broke? Mom and Dad, how can you judge someone by their money? He's always taken care of our family, and now his leg's messed up. How can you look down on him? If Mia doesn't want him, I do. I'll take care of him for the rest of my life." No, that's not what my sister actually said. I didn't want to break up. She blamed me for not finding a rich guy for the family. She even went to find Ethan and called him a crippled bum, saying I'd never marry him and told him to give up. My boyfriend rolled up in a fancy car and brought people to my place. He wasn't lame after all. He was a rich third-gen heir all along. It was all a front. He acted all high and mighty, mocking our entire family. In my life, all I wanted was to find a girl like my mom, someone genuine who loved me for who I am, not for the cash. His whole game was to test me, right? It should have gone like that. I glanced at my sister. She looked hyped, her eyes scanning towards my room. Suddenly, the door swung open, and my boyfriend walked out. My mom was stunned. "Ethan, your leg's fine." My dad was confused. "Why are you here? Ethan shouldn't be at our place right now." Ethan stepped forward. "Mia asked me to come, saying your family would never disrespect me." But she was wrong. He approached my sister, helped her up. Now I saw that Mia was the truly kind and innocent girl. He took her hand and walked up to me. "I'm not your grandfather's heir anymore, Lily. You failed the test. We're breaking up. I choose your sister. I'll take good care of her and let her live happily." I looked at him, then at my sister. I cried as he and Mia both had smug, victorious smiles. Mia linked her arm with his. "Don't blame me, sis. I purposely brought Ethan here today to show we all support him." She looked pissed. "But you guys were ready to ditch him." "I'm pissed too." I couldn't stop my tears. But they weren't tears of regret. They were tears of joy. I got it now. We were both reincarnated. She hated my boyfriend because he was broke, and after he had that car crash and broke his leg, she humiliated him. She got slapped hard after that and shamelessly flirted with him multiple times behind the scenes, even having an affair. It was because our parents found out about the scandal that the accident happened. Then she poisoned me with a slow poison. By the time I realized, it was too late. I was so depressed and didn't have the strength to fight back. This time around, she didn't just not feel bad. She purposely brought my boyfriend here to flaunt herself. But thanks to her, at the engagement party, my sister took my place as the bride. The relatives and friends were confused, but Ethan didn't invite any of our family. My parents were super tense, worried about me. That day after crying, I stayed silent for a month. I didn't go apologize to Ethan last night. Mom came to me, feeling guilty. "It's because Mom and Dad told you to break up that things turned out this way." I talked it over with Dad. "We want to go apologize to Ethan in person." I was shocked and quickly stopped them. Seriously. I had been looking forward to this engagement party for so long. In our past life, after Ethan pretended to be broke and lame and embarrassed us, he still said he was willing to marry me. The family thought it was because he had feelings for me. It wasn't until after we tied the knot that I realized he did it to stomp on me. After marriage, I felt inferior, facing cold and real violence, at home and out. He never treated me like his wife, and even brought other women home to fool around. My sister even told me, "You can't even handle a man." If it were me, I'd have made the family wealthy ages ago. Now, in this new life, all I wanted was to find that older man. I hope my sister would keep her word, but not count me in, unfortunately. Back then, to avoid suspicion, I didn't interact much with him. All I knew was that he was related to Ethan. That old dude saved me from a fire and helped with the treatment after mom had a stroke, and dad fell down the stairs. Even though things didn't turn out well, I remembered his kindness. "Mia," my sister called me, snapping me back. I turned around. She grabbed my arm and said, "Sis, come help me with my dress." I wasn't too keen, but there were people watching, so I got up and followed her to the back lounge. Ethan was there. I knew instantly that asking me to come wasn't just about the dress. I wanted to bail, but my sister held my arm and said, "Sis, will you blame me for stealing your love?" Ethan, looking sharp in his suit, approached with a smug grin. "What right does she have to blame you, a shallow girl who despises the poor and fawns over the rich?" Mia moved next to Ethan and said, "Don't talk about sis like that." I watched calmly. Actually, the power in the Smith family wasn't Ethan's grandfather or father, but his younger uncle. Outsiders didn't know, but she did. Ethan's father was pushed onto old Mr. Smith by a distant relative and wasn't his biological son. The Yuan Heng group was also built by this younger uncle. It had nothing to do with Ethan. I asked, "What do you want from me by asking me here?" Ethan glanced at Mia. She was a bit hesitant but still picked up her dress skirt and walked out. I was about to follow, but Ethan grabbed my wrist at the engagement scene. I didn't want to make a scene, so I shook off his hand and said, "What are you doing?" Ethan laughed. "Lily, are you regretting it?" I was too tired to answer. He moved closer. "If you regret it, I'll give you a chance. We can have some private dealings." Just as expected, the jerk was as disgusting as ever. I turned around and ran. He was stunned for a sec before chasing after me. "Lily, don't be ungrateful." I opened the door and rushed out, crashing into someone's arms. "Sorry." I looked up and, to my surprise, saw who it was. It was you, finally. I found him. The older man wasn't actually old. He was just 7 or 8 years older than me, unfortunately. In my past life, he died young, even before me, in a tragic car accident. Another car accident this time. I wanted to save him. Ethan caught up and was about to say something when the man stepped back and glared at Ethan. Ethan froze, sure enough. The old man was a relative on Ethan's side, scared he might spill something. I quickly replied, "I'm Lily's sister and I came looking for her. She's not here and I was about to leave." His voice was cold. "What are you doing?" Ethan stammered. With others around, Ethan wouldn't dare to do anything. Sure enough, he stayed silent. The man casually nodded and left. I hurried to chase after him. I caught him in the corridor and realized I was being too abrupt. My mind was racing about what to say. He stared at me and actually took the initiative to ask, "Do you know me?" I wanted to nod but thought, "No, not in this life." I shook my head. "No, I don't know you." He lowered his eyes, looking annoyed. I was both nervous and embarrassed, my mind blank, and I blurted out, "I don't know you before, but we can get to know each other." He asked, "What's your name?" I stared at him, and he said, "Are you showing interest in me?" Tough question, I choked after calming down. On a whim, I said, "If I say yes?" Immediately regretting it, he surprisingly smiled slightly. Suddenly, my heart was pounding, and my face was burning. In an instant, he smiled and said, I knew he was about to say his name, but at that moment, someone interrupted. My sister rushed over, saying, I was about to hear his name. But someone cut in. My sister hurriedly said, "Sis, I'm going to make a toast. What are you doing?" The man's smile vanished, and he turned to leave. I wanted to chase him, but was grabbed by my sister, who had caught up. I shook off her arm as she laughed and leaned over, saying, "Sis, your reaction is kind of weird." I looked up at her. She said, "A month ago, Ethan tested you and chose me." She looked me over and said, "After that, you didn't even fight back." Yeah, I was too lazy to act. It was obvious she noticed something was off, But so what? My sister seemed to catch on and was about to speak when footsteps approached. She turned her head in the corridor. Ethan was looking around and heading our way. My sister immediately changed her expression and said in an agitated and righteous tone, "Sis, you can't do that." Ethan saw us and walked over quickly after my sister. "What's up?" My sister hesitated and said, "I saw you pestering your relative." Ethan laughed and mocked. "Lily, I really underestimated you. You've got ideas, but he's not that easy to seduce. With your looks, it'd be a miracle if he liked you." I didn't care about his petty insults. Ethan turned and walked away angrily. My sister grabbed her dress skirt before chasing after him, leaned over to me and said, "No one can threaten Ethan except his younger uncle. But that uncle has his own issues. Sis, don't blame me for not warning you. You'll end up with nothing." She left with a smug grin, chasing after Ethan. The old man was already gone. I went back to the party when suddenly Dad grabbed me excitedly. "Dad met an old friend. He said he'd introduce an awesome guy to you." I refused without thinking. "Dad, I don't want to think about this now." Dad kept going. "That guy is really great. He's Ethan's younger uncle. He's a bit older than you, but not by much." I was stunned. It all seems so absurd. Are you guys crazy? Mia is engaged to Ethan. How can I get involved with Ethan's younger uncle? Mom joined in. "Your dad and I are really worried. Ethan deliberately deceived us and chose your sister." "Will he hurt your sister?" she whispered. "And Ethan's younger uncle isn't blood related to him." Dad added, "If you get involved with that guy, you can help take care of your sister." It's normal for parents to worry. They had no clue my sister had been reincarnated or how she had hurt them before for wealth and status. I explained it to them from their perspective. Naturally, they were concerned about my sister. I'd heard of Uncle Gabe, the real head of the group. He could have any woman he wanted. Why would he need an introduction? Hearing this, my parents thought it made sense and felt a bit let down. There was nothing I could do. I had someone I wanted to cherish, Noah. Even though he was related to Ethan, their bond wasn't tight. At that moment, Ethan and my sister came to our table with glasses of wine. Only our family was at our table, which was odd, making our parents even more worried. Ethan boldly said to me in front of everyone, "Your idea is great. Chasing my uncle is your only shot to climb the social ladder. Too bad your situation doesn't match your ambitions. Oh, by the way, I heard my uncle likes someone and has even asked the elders to set you up." "Ha ha ha, Lily, what are you gonna do? Why don't you beg me? For our past relationship, I'll take you too." These words made my parents' eyes tear up. My dad grabbed my sister, and my mom shielded me. "Ethan, what nonsense are you talking about? If you want revenge, come at us. Don't mess with the kids." While speaking, Dad tried to pull my sister and leave, but she shook his hand. "Dad, you two are snobbish, disappointing Ethan. How dare you criticize him?" "I'm Ethan's fiancé, and I'll always support him. If you keep protecting my sister, we'll cut all ties. I won't recognize you anymore." Hearing my sister's words, my parents were shocked and sad. I quickly comforted them. Seeing their disappointment, I turned to Ethan and said, "The guy your uncle likes is me." In a moment of impulse and regret, but I couldn't back down. "I'd handle it if anyone found out later." Ethan laughed heartily. "Really? Then am I going to call you Aunt?" He didn't believe it at all. "Oh, coincidentally, my uncle is here." He waved towards behind me. I froze, embarrassed and frustrated. In my past life, after marrying Ethan, I never saw that mysterious uncle. But in this life, when Ethan and my sister got engaged, he showed up. Fine. I considered myself unlucky and was ready to deal with it. At the same time, I sensed a tall man approaching from behind. Ethan was mocking, and my sister was waiting for the show. Ethan said to the man behind me, "Uncle, she's the one you like. Why don't you introduce her to us?" I was mentally prepared to say I mistook her for someone else. The man behind me, Noah, said gently, "It's not too late to introduce now." I turned my head. It was him, the old man I was searching for. He was actually Ethan's uncle, Dylan. In my past life, he only said he was related to Ethan. Wait, so? When Ethan saw us in the lounge earlier, he wasn't calling me. He was about to shout, "Uncle." My sister stepped forward. "Sis, why do you look so surprised? Are you lying to us?" I controlled my emotions first. Regardless of why Dylan was willing to help, I had to handle the situation. I took a step back and stood beside Dylan. You're mistaken. I'm pleasantly surprised. Not just surprised. My sister didn't believe it, and neither did Ethan. Impossible, when did you two hook up behind my back? He didn't want to believe it, but facing Dylan, they were really scared. Dylan coldly glanced at Ethan, making him panic. Uncle, I. I was just too surprised. It was obvious to anyone that Ethan was being suppressed by Dylan. My sister glared at me resentfully. Dylan stepped aside to block her view, didn't even look at her, and casually ordered Ethan, Aren't you going to toast at other tables? Ethan was reluctant but had to obey. Right, right. He grabbed my sister and left. My sister looked back at me, raising her eyebrows and smiling. Sure enough, her eyes became even more resentful. Dylan pulled out a chair and continued with the meal. I was full of doubts, but it wasn't a good time to talk. After the shot, my parents were actually quite happy. They invited Dylan to sit with us. He didn't immediately agree, but looked at me. My face felt a bit warm, and I tugged at his clothes. Please sit down quickly. Everyone's watching you. After hearing my words, he took his seat next to me. He was really gentle, and his conversation with my parents was both polite and smart. The mood at our family table lightened in the second half of the banquet. He didn't stay till the end. He was busy, got a few calls, and left the engagement party straight away. Before seeing him off, I asked curiously, You're leaving like this for Ethan's engagement party? Is that okay? The way he looked at me seemed to say 1,000 words. It's okay. I wasn't even here for him. Thinking about our past conversation, I deliberately said, Maybe you still came for me? I was just joking, but he didn't deny it. When he left, the smile he gave me was meaningful and stayed in my mind. After the party ended, we went to say goodbye to my sister. She pulled me aside, stared at me, and said with certainty, Sis, you've been reincarnated too, right? It wasn't surprising when she saw that I didn't deny it. Her expression twisted for a sec. Why should it be like this? She was so resentful. Since I got a second chance at life, why did she get one too? I glanced at my worried parents and urged, Are you done? I'm leaving. She grabbed my wrist. Don't rush like that. You should know that Uncle Dylan has set a rule. Whoever has a baby first will get his recognition. Although my uncle can keep Ethan in check for now, he's infertile. Ha ha ha. My sister was just mocking me, shaking her head playfully. Sis, tell me, how could you be so short-sighted, just getting beaten? She deliberately provoked me, but I couldn't argue back. Regarding Uncle Ethan's infertility, I'd heard about it in my past life. After being reborn, I only wanted to find that old man and had no plans to get involved with the Smith family again. Didn't care about infertility or anything. Turns out, the old man was my uncle, and my sister was just trying to rile me up. Seeing I had nothing to say, she was smug. Just wait and see, with me around in this life, I'll make sure Ethan gets the Smith family. In our past life, you held Ethan back. She was challenging me, and of course she was super confident. Unfortunately, she didn't know that in our past life, I didn't want kids for Ethan at all. When he regained his status as a wealthy heir and slapped us in the face, he said he was willing to marry me. My family felt guilty towards him, but he wasn't sincere after reconciling. He completely trampled on me, saying it was for the past. How could I possibly agree to have kids for him? Plus, he had so many women later, and none got pregnant. Who knew whose fault it was? My sister really hit me where it hurt. Too much. When I got home, I thought about why Uncle Gabe had such a requirement. I couldn't get it in my past life. The more I thought about it, the more flustered I got. I sat up. In this life, my original plan was only to find that old man. Now, he was Ethan's uncle, so things were different. For example, the car accident. We had a contact now. When I dialed it, I wasn't even sure he'd pick up. Within 3 rings, it connected. I was totally unprepared and stuck. Hello, it's me, Lily. I heard a pleasant chuckle. I know. My ears tingled. Calling me now? What's up? Oh, yeah, are you free tomorrow? Can we meet? I'm free. You just agreed like that, otherwise? It seems too easy. Are you especially nice to me? Or are you like this to everyone? Why? In my past life, he was so nice to me. It's the same now. Doubts swirled in my heart, but I couldn't ask them out. He seemed to know my doubts. I also hope you can figure out why I'm special to you. The next day after I met Noah, I took him to the hospital. We were in the car in the hospital parking lot. For the first time, his face darkened. You said, "What did you bring me here for?" My eyes wandered, not meeting his. I brought you here for a physical exam. Ethan's infertility was confirmed through so many women, but Noah was different. He was clean and had no scandals, even in his 30s. Oh, there was one in my past life. I heard Ethan cursing at home, saying his uncle was probably impotent or into the same sex while I was lost in my thoughts. He leaned closer. I held my breath. Who told you there was something wrong with my body? Ethan. In this life, those rumors hadn't spread yet. Well, then let Ethan take the blame. I simply nodded. Didn't explain. He tapped his fingers on the steering wheel. I underestimated him. He actually had informants in the old house. Good. If he starts watching Ethan from now on, it'll be good for him. Noah lifted my chin. Lily, listen up. There's nothing wrong with me. I just said that because I was annoyed by the old man's nagging. The old man he mentioned was Mr. Smith, Ethan's grandfather. His father had a son in his old age, and such an awesome son. Naturally, he doted on him. Luckily, there was the old lady. Anyway, Noah had great character, but I was still shocked he dared to talk back to his old father. He seemed to see through my doubts and pressed my head with his big hand. When I first found out that the guy I liked already had a boyfriend, and she was younger than me, I thought he wouldn't even glance at me. And the old man was nagging all the time. So I deliberately said that. I turned my face away, hearing that he had someone he liked. A pang of jealousy hit me. He leaned closer. Are you jealous? My heart skipped a beat. So this was my jealousy? Then, I liked him? It was expected. If I didn't like him, why would I seek him out after starting over? I looked back at him and nodded pitifully. Yes, I like you. He was stunned for a moment. I forced a smile. But don't cling to me. Since you already have someone you like, I won't force it. I missed it in my past life. In this life, I just realized my feelings. But unexpectedly, I was going to miss it again. A big hand covered the back of my hand. I looked up. He sighed as he saw my tears. Silly girl. Weren't my words just now clear enough? How could you like me? Coincidentally, so do I. He likes me too? I was stunned. I liked him because of our past lives. What about him? He didn't seem to be reincarnated. Why? I asked. Puzzled, he smiled helplessly. When a girl is being confessed to for the first time, her first reaction is to ask why. I pressed on. But it's just so weird. We didn't even know each other before. He countered. Then why do you like me? I couldn't answer and just mumbled, I know about you, you're so awesome. He wiped away my tears. Sure enough, you still haven't remembered. He leaned in and kissed my forehead. You could call it love at first sight. Or maybe I'm just attracted to you. You know me, and I know you too. Noah didn't say more. He wanted me to remember where I met him, but I couldn't recall. As for my sister, she had specially set up 2 tables to treat the relatives to a meal on Saturday. At the dinner gathering, she told the relatives. Since the engagement party was only for the young folks, we didn't invite the older relatives. Ethan specifically told me to hold the party at a 5-star hotel. He said since you're all his relatives, he should treat you well. Unfortunately, he couldn't come today due to some stuff. Everyone, enjoy the meal. Ethan has made the best arrangements. The relatives praised my sister one after another. It wasn't a friendly party. After saving face, she secretly pulled me aside and said, I tested Uncle Gabe. He's different from you and me. Sis, I don't know how you got Uncle to cooperate, but you told a huge lie for the sake of face. Haven't thought about how to cover it up. I was too tired to pay attention to her. Just take care of yourself, she shrugged. Later. Sis, don't get mad. She must have a plan. At the table, the relatives kept praising my sister. The conversation shifted to me. Your sister has achieved a major life event before you. You should hurry up. But didn't we hear you had a boyfriend before? Your sister's boyfriend is so awesome. Yours shouldn't be outdone, can't be outdone, can't be outdone, right? I heard her boyfriend has a powerful background. One comment after another was thrown at me by the relatives while my sister watched and enjoyed the chaos. My parents awkwardly helped me reply. My aunt, closer to my sister, suddenly said, "Hey, it seems that the previous rumor was true." The relatives gathered around her to ask what the rumor was. The aunt said, "That little guy was originally her boyfriend, Lily's boyfriend." The relatives exclaimed, "Wow, really? What's going on?" The aunt continued, "It's because Lily has no taste. When little guy hurt his leg, she just dumped him because she despises him. Mia is different. She said little guy is a good person, and how could you leave him when he was in trouble?" So little guy saw what kind of person she is. The relatives started chattering, and the aunt lectured me. "In real life, you have to keep your eyes open. Tell you what, Auntie will introduce someone to you, even though he's almost 50. He looks young, had a previous marriage, but the woman was at fault for the divorce. He's good enough for you." I refused. "No thanks. I have a boyfriend. If he's that good, Auntie can introduce him to your own daughter." The aunt glared at me. "How can you talk to your elders like that? I'm doing this for your own good. Am I wrong?" I was speechless. "You said that man was good. I'm just giving him to my cousin." "What's the problem?" My sister held my arm. "Sis, aren't the elders in the family all doing this for your own good? You're being too much. And where did you get a boyfriend from?" The aunt put her hands on her hips and started scolding me for not respecting her. Just then, the private dining room door opened. Mia walked in with a waiter, and the sudden arrival silenced the whole room. I stared at the man who walked in and was stunned. "Noah?" I was about to call out to him when he silently shook his head at me. He was on the phone, and Ethan's voice came through. "Those relatives of Mia's. Who are they to deserve my reception? Hold a party for a bunch of clueless people. I bet Mia just fooled them with cheap stuff. Don't worry about Mia. When you come back, I'll settle things with her. Your task is to keep a close eye on Uncle Gabe and report his dealings to me." The room went even quieter. Noah hung up the phone and handed it to the man beside him, who was sweating bullets. I recognized him as Noah's driver. So he had been bribed by Ethan long ago. There was definitely something shady about the car accident in our past life. I got up and walked towards Noah. He took my hand. I was a bit startled, but didn't pull away. He pulled me to his side and said to the relatives, "Sorry, it's my fault for not disciplining my nephew properly, but the food here isn't great. I've already asked the neighboring Yending Hotel to send over a banquet." Yending Hotel was a renowned luxury hotel in the city. Even the relatives knew about it. After saying that, he let go of my hand and straightened his suit buttons. "Oh, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Noah. I'm Lily's boyfriend. The Yending Hotel is my private property, so you relatives don't need to worry about expenses for me." There was a moment of silence before the relatives started scolding my sister. Of course, it was all directed at Mia since they heard Ethan's nasty words on the phone. "Mia, what do you mean? Is Ethan so great, saying such things about his own relatives?" I exchanged a glance with Noah. He asked, "Shall we go?" I hesitated. "Is Ethan so great, saying such things about his own relatives?" I exchanged a glance with Noah. He asked, "Shall we go?" I hesitated. My parents were already sent away quietly as Noah had instructed. I sighed in relief. "Thank you." Amid the chaos, the two of us slipped away secretly. He knew I definitely hadn't eaten, so he took me to a nearby restaurant. I had a ton of questions, but didn't know where to start. He cut the steak for me and gestured for me to eat. "I'll talk to you after you finish eating." When the meal was over and we were back in the car, he took the lead to explain. "Before, when you mentioned to me that Ethan had planted spies, I became vigilant. I found a few, and that driver was one of them. Knowing your plans today was a coincidence, I guessed you'd be in a tough spot, so I came over. You won't blame me for taking the liberty, right?" I quickly shook my head. He continued, "I guessed Ethan wouldn't make proper arrangements, so I asked the driver to call him and tell him about your sister treating us. Regarding what happened later, needless to say, I was personally involved. Ethan thought the driver was reporting important info and openly showed his dislike for my relatives. Thinking of this, I suddenly laughed, and Noah was looking at me intently. I was shy and covered his eyes with my hand. He was pretty obedient and let me press on them. After kissing him, I regretted it. A man reached out from behind and grabbed my shoulders. Seeing his calm demeanor, I couldn't resist and leaned over to kiss him. I panicked and let go, trying to run away. I couldn't open the car door, nor had the guts to look back. "I'm sorry." He leaned over and whispered in my ear, "Why are you apologizing?" "I kissed you." He chuckled. "Why should you apologize for kissing your own boyfriend?" "Boyfriend?" I turned around stiffly, meeting his smiling gaze. My ears were still burning a bit. I was eager to figure out what he meant. "What boyfriend?" I asked. He held my hand. "Just now. Although I claim to be your boyfriend out of convenience, since we like each other, there's no reason not to continue our relationship." He kissed the palm of my hand. "Of course, I still need to confess properly. Lily, I like you. Can you be my girlfriend?" I stared at him blankly. He gently pinched my fingers. "Baby, I'm a bit nervous. Will you give me an answer whether you agree or not?" "Agree? How could I not agree?" I stretched out my arms and hugged his neck. He cooperated and naturally embraced me in his arms. We were officially together. 2 weeks after we started dating, I came out of my house and went downstairs in the community. I happened to run into my sister and Ethan. They were having an argument. My sister asked Ethan in a sweet tone, "Ethan, why don't you take me to meet your parents and grandfather?" Ethan was busy on his phone and didn't bother to answer. My sister acted all cute and shook his arm. "Ethan, believe me, I can totally handle it." Ethan shook off her hand. "Are you annoying or what? It's just an engagement, not marriage." My sister staggered a bit. "Yes, so? Why isn't it marriage?" He didn't answer. My sister was so pissed she cried. "Why are you willing to marry my sister but not me?" Ethan looked up. "Are you crazy? When did I marry your sister?" "Well, he did. In our past life." I didn't want to listen anymore and was planning to quietly bypass them when my sister noticed me. "Lily?" She called my name directly. I stopped and turned around as she and Ethan walked towards me. Ethan's gaze swept from my head to my feet, making me feel super disgusted. My sister also noticed and went berserk. "You're seducing Ethan!" She raised her hand and swung it at me. I grabbed her wrist and blocked it. Then before she could react, I raised my hand and slapped her back. Slap, slap. My sister staggered back, covering her face in disbelief. "You hit me!" "Yes, I did. I hit you for harming our parents. I hit you for drugging me." I stared at her. "Yes, I did. I hit you for harming our parents. I hit you for drugging me." "Mia, if it weren't for our parents, I'd never let you off." Ethan didn't care about our sister at all, nor did he care that Mia got slapped by me. He stared at me maliciously. "Lily, why don't you just marry me instead?" He walked towards me. "I realize I still quite like you. It was a waste of time dealing with this guy." I turned around and walked away. He was blocked by my sister, but he still chased after me, about to hug me when a car screeched to a stop beside us. The car pulled up smoothly. Noah got out of the driver's seat. Ethan instinctively stepped back. "Uncle? Uncle Noah?" He walked towards us with an imposing presence. Noah approached me and put his arm around my waist as he first asked with concern, "Were you bullied?" I shook my head and told him in a low voice, but with pride, I wasn't bullied. I even hit my sister. A hint of a smile showed in his eyes. "Well done." After making sure I wasn't wronged, he turned his gaze to Ethan. "What do you want to do to your sister?" My sister ran to Ethan's side, giving me a jealous glare. She said to Noah, "Uncle Noah, you don't have to lie to us anymore. I know you have someone you really like." "She's abroad," she said with certainty, then looked at me. "Sis, you don't have to deceive yourself. You clearly know it." Yes, I knew in my past life. I also heard that Ethan's Uncle Noah had someone he liked. She was abroad, though. My sister didn't know that person was actually me. I told her, back then, I was Ethan's girlfriend. He liked me, but he couldn't take someone else's love. So he said the person he liked was abroad. My sister was surprised. She knew what I was talking about now and in my past life. She didn't want to believe it. Ethan jumped out. "What? Uncle Noah, you actually coveted my woman. You bastard, I must tell Grandpa." Noah said calmly, I'm just about to take Lily to meet my father. If you want to complain, you can come along. Today, Noah is going to take me to meet his father. So I dressed up elaborately. My sister just asked Ethan to take her home, but he refused. And I, Noah, had proposed long ago, agreeing only today. All these things made me realize Noah's deep feelings for me. I clenched his hand tightly. He held mine back as for Ethan. He said he'd tell on us. But when asked to come along, he chickened out. We left smoothly after meeting old Mr. Smith. I felt at ease dating Noah when he proposed living together. I agreed too. The crisis hadn't been resolved yet, but it was okay. I could take care of him by my side, even though things on Ethan's side weren't quieting down. They spread news, claiming that old Mr. Smith said whoever had a baby first would win his recognition. I spread rumors that Noah was infertile. There were even photos on Gossip News. In the study, I sat on Noah's lap. I'm sorry I didn't drag you to the hospital before. We wouldn't have been photographed like this. He put his arm around my waist. It has nothing to do with you. Even without this photo, there'd be other so-called evidence. That's true. In my past life, there was evidence he kissed me. It's not worth stressing over, I said angrily. When the time comes, I'll get pregnant and shut them all up. His eyes sparkled with amusement. Getting pregnant just to prove something to others isn't fair to you. He leaned closer and whispered seductively, but if you're willing, I'll work even harder to make a baby. I realized I was too emotional being teased like that. I felt embarrassed and gave him a light smack. Nice try. I don't want a kid with an improper status. Let's just get married. I stared at him blankly. Are you joking, baby? I never joke, originally. I thought I'd miss you, but in the end, you were sent to me. Of course, I have to seize the opportunity quickly. Noah, I had mixed emotions. After calming down a bit, I said, after meeting your father, I suddenly remembered some things. When I was a junior in college, I met a guy who had a fight with his old father and was getting soaked in the rain. I bought him an umbrella, and he touched my face. You finally remembered. At that time, my mom was sick, and I found out he had another woman outside. I was stunned as he asked me, anything else? I nodded. When I just started looking for a job, I wasn't feeling well that day and almost got into a car accident. I was saved by a kind person. His smile grew wider. Well, that was me too. I straightened your hair for you. Then this little girl was so kind-hearted that she insisted on giving me a thank you gift. She stopped me for a week. How many people do we pass by in our lifetime? If there's no future encounter, the memories of a brief acquaintance will fade. I was like that. I just didn't expect you fell in love with me at first sight and thought about me for a long time. I intertwined my fingers with his. It's so nice. In this life, I didn't miss you. He agreed. Suddenly, I felt nauseous. I fainted a few times, which scared Noah badly. He quickly carried me to the bathroom. The two of us were a mess after that bout of nausea passed. I guessed, did I eat something wrong at lunch? We looked at each other suddenly. I shook my head. No, it can't be, right? It was only once, our first time. He was nervous too, but pretended to be calm. First, let's go to the hospital. If it is, we'll get the marriage certificate right away. He looked serious. You have to give the baby a proper status. And you also have to give me, the father, a proper status. When we went to the hospital for an exam, the result was I was pregnant. Even though someone said I had a fertile constitution, this was still too exaggerated. Before I could react, I was dragged by Noah to get the marriage certificate. After going home, he paced around. The wedding has to be as soon as possible. Otherwise, you won't be able to wear a beautiful dress. It'll definitely be a pity. It's okay. If something can be solved with money, it's no big deal. Oh no, what should we pay attention to? What was that doctor's name again? Maybe I should hire her. I saw him muttering to himself, and my floating emotions suddenly became grounded. I got up and walked over to hug him. Don't be nervous. The baby is still so small, there's still time. He felt guilty. I shouldn't have been impulsive that day and made you suffer. I shook my head. Although it was an accident, it's an unexpected treasure. He held me in his arms tenderly. You're right. After that, the wedding was organized by Noah all by himself. All I had to do was show up on the day. Even so, he still thought it would tire me out and felt very guilty. 1 week before the wedding, we were called to the old mansion. Ethan and my sister were there alongside family members. There was a room full of people I hadn't seen before. Noah told me they're shareholders. I nodded. At first, I didn't know what these shareholders were up to. Later, as they talked, I understood they actually wanted Noah to see a doctor. It was really speechless, although I was already pregnant. It's not like there's a throne to inherit in the family, so what if Noah didn't have a child? Couldn't he manage the group well? But it was meaningless to argue with these people. I was just about to tell them the fact that I was pregnant when Ethan preempted me. Mia has been craving certain foods lately. I was just about to take her to the hospital for an exam. As soon as old Mr. Smith heard that, he immediately said, Dr. Yuen is coming to re-examine me today and is at home right now. Butler, go and invite the person here. They were going to confirm it on the spot. I looked at my sister, seeing her raising her chin with joy on her face. It seemed she wasn't lying. Naturally, it had nothing to do with me. She even threw a few smug looks my way. The doctor arrived soon. After hearing the purpose of asking him to come, he directly took my pulse. Soon he shook his head. Not pregnant. It's just abdominal distension. The body is also quite weak. The deficiency is too severe. Ethan was angry. What are you talking about? The doctor shrugged. Mia didn't want to believe it either. What era is it now? Who still takes the pulse? Of course, advanced equipment is needed to detect it. The doctor wasn't angry either. Suddenly, I felt nauseous again. I couldn't hold it back and vomited sideways. Noah skillfully took out a pack of dried fruits from his pocket and fed them to me. He felt sorry and coaxed. Have some to suppress it. We'll go back soon. After feeding me the fruits, he said to the old man, Is it okay now? If there's nothing else, we'll go back. The old man's eyes lit up. Dr. Yuen, quickly take my daughter-in-law's pulse. The doctor walked over. Noah blocked him. No need. We definitely don't need it. The old man was angry. What do you mean no need? He is a master of traditional Chinese medicine. If her aura is unwell, he can regulate her condition. Upon hearing this, Noah finally agreed. The doctor took my pulse. Before long, he turned to the old man with a smile and said, Congratulations. She's pregnant, and the pregnancy is going very well. There are 2 pulses. It could be twins, a boy and a girl, just identical twins. I was astonished and said to Noah, Goodness, this doctor is amazing. Noah nodded. Of course, the doctor was remarkable since he took care of the old man's health. Ethan banged on the table and stood up. Impossible. Even if she's pregnant, the child can't be Uncle Gabe's. I scowled. What's wrong with this guy? However, it seemed old Mr. Smith also had concerns. Noah had brought trouble upon himself before the old man asked the doctor to take Noah's pulse. I was so angry that I dragged Ethan into it. Then why not have Ethan check too? Dr. Yuen had no objections, naturally. Ethan couldn't object either. The 2 of them had their pulses taken by Dr. Yuen one after the other. After that, Dr. Yuen said, This involves privacy. Should I only talk to the parties concerned? Ethan was smug. No, say it right here. Dr. Yuen nodded. If you don't mind, then I'll say it right here. The implication was clear. Dr. Yuen nodded. Noah is in good health and full of energy. Lily, you're pregnant now. You should control yourself a bit. As for Ethan, go to the hospital to regulate your body as soon as possible. You're still young. Maybe there'll be a miracle. Hearing this, Ethan swung his fist. Of course he was stopped. The doctor nimbly dodged the shareholders' repeated nods. Dr. Yuen is a master. He can't be wrong. Ethan, listen to the doctor and get treatment quickly. Noah, congratulations. You're going to be a father. It'll enhance our group's image. Old Mr. Smith was also quite happy. He had offered his property to motivate his son. Now, it was perfect. What a joy, the adopted son of the old man. Ethan's father actually stepped forward to congratulate Noah. Second brother, congratulations. Noah held my arm. You're all too noisy. It's not good for her to rest. We're leaving. The old man didn't stop us, only told us to come back often. Before leaving, I looked back just in time to see Ethan and old Mr. Smith exchange glances. Somehow, I felt flustered. When we got to the garage, I grabbed Noah's arm. I'm not feeling well. He was worried. You must have been disturbed by them. I couldn't really explain what was going on. Seeing that I was really tired, he suggested, Shall we stay at the old house tonight? I thought about it and nodded in agreement. Little did I expect that this flustered feeling would actually change Noah's fate. The next morning, as soon as I woke up, I received some news. My sister had been in a car accident and was being rescued at the hospital. Noah was sitting by my bedside, comforting me. I didn't want to tell you at first. I was worried it would hurt your feelings if you found out later. The car that had the accident was ours. I stared at him wide-eyed. He nodded. Yes, I suspect someone was trying to harm us. Then he slowly told me the whole story. Yesterday, when you weren't feeling well, we stayed overnight. Ethan and his father left your sister behind. Your sister had no way to get home and saw our car in the garage. She said she was Ethan's wife and your sister, so the driver didn't dare not to give her the car keys. She drove away and had an accident on the way. After the accident, someone wanted to destroy the car because I sensed something was wrong. I stopped them first and waited for the vehicle inspection results. I listened quietly. In my past life, when Noah had a car accident, a car seemed to have been scrapped in this life. By some strange turn of events, it was my sister who had the accident and Noah was fine. So he reacted quickly. It just never occurred to me that, in the end, this misfortune would fall on my sister's head. Noah kept rubbing my hands. Baby, don't be sad. I shook my head. Sad, not really in my past life. When my sister poisoned me slowly, our sisterly bond was broken. In this life, I didn't retaliate. One reason was for the sake of our parents, and the other was that when she chose Ethan, I guessed she would reap what she sowed. I faced Noah and said, Husband, I had a dream. Would you like to hear about it? He nodded without hesitation. I was quiet for a while, gathering my thoughts. Then I slowly told him about the events of my past life in the form of a dream. After listening, I saw that he was actually crying. I wiped his tears as he hugged me. Thank you for that dream. Thank you. It was just a dream. I knew he understood it was about my past life, but wanted to assure me it was all in the past. After calming down our emotions, Noah took me to the hospital. My sister's condition was critical, and she was rushed into the operating room again before we got the results. Our parents hadn't been informed yet. The car accident was caused by Ethan and his father. Not only that, they had been drugging old Mr. Smith all along. He helped me up to meet the doctor. My husband told me. They were caught on the run. Just then, the operation was over. The doctor told me the operation was successful and she's out of danger. However, I'm sorry to say that the patient's face is disfigured and she'll have a permanent disability and such. F***CK, the outcome for my sister. I was sleepy during my pregnancy, so Noah sent me home. He carried me to the bed and kissed my forehead. Be good. Don't worry about anything else, whether it's the follow-up of this incident or the wedding. I'll handle it all. The only thing you need to do is take good care of yourself and don't let me worry. I nodded in agreement, having told him about the dream and knowing about the past life entanglements. I trusted he'd make the best arrangements. With him by my side, I soon fell asleep. In the days that followed, I did as my husband said and lived a carefree life. He took care of everything else. 1 month later, before the wedding, Ethan and his father were sentenced. I was in the dressing room backstage when Noah walked in. I stood up and quickly told him, according to the custom, we shouldn't see each other first. He came up to me. I know. I just wanted to tell you something. He gently hugged me. Your sister is here too, to keep me from worrying. He hadn't let me get involved in anything before, even when I stayed at my parents' house last night. I didn't see my sister, knowing it was his arrangement. He told me, I understand you're worried that your sister will burden your parents, and even more worried she'll try to get revenge. I nodded as he cut my face. So I have to tell you before you see her, so you won't be worried. Don't worry, your sister is a bully to the weak. As long as we seize her weakness, she won't dare. I wrapped my arms around his waist and smiled. Are you teaching me how to deal with enemies? He looked down. Do you think I'm too ruthless? Do you think I'm a bad person? I moved closer to him. I don't care what you are to others. I don't even know. To me, all these arrangements of yours are showing one thing. You like me. He laughed. No, I'm not just like you. I blinked. He then said immediately, I love you, my little girl. So that's how it was. A love even deeper than just liking. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. The big day arrived. I took my father's arm and walked slowly towards the old man. My father handed me over to him, and he held my hand. Holding your hand, growing old, together. We walked on the red carpet towards our future. Ethan's family didn't attend the wedding because they were in prison. My sister kept her head down, hiding her ugly scars this time. She didn't even dare to be jealous. Both in this life and the past life, it was my first wedding. Although I got married, there was no grand ceremony. I listened to the music in my ears and the congratulations from everyone, my eyes moist. Suddenly, I felt a kick in my abdomen. I was both surprised and happy. Yes, in this life, there was an unexpected baby. Just as Noah had said, the nightmare was over, and a beautiful future was my reality.